Hey, I'm ParaSide. As long as there have been humans, there has been war. While we can hope that 1,000 years from now we'll all have matured into hoverboard-riding pacifists for the time being murdering each other over whatever disagreements are fashionable, this decade seems set to remain an intrinsic part of who we are. Probably the most devastating acts of violence ever carried out by humans on humans were the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of the Second World War. The weapons that caused this mass destruction were codenamed Little Boy and Fat Man. Between them, they claimed somewhere in the region of 200,000 lives. The role these two bombs played in ending the war is widely known. But what's a little less well known is that this deadly duo was very nearly a trio. While the world was still coming to terms with the devastation Little Boy and Fat Man had unleashed over in Los Alamos, home of the Manhattan Project, the finishing touches were being made to another atomic bomb. Had Japan not surrendered on August 15, 1945, this third weapon was scheduled to be released over an unknown Japanese city just 4 days later. Nestled within the center of this nuke that never was a radioactive core nicknamed Rufus. If that sounds a little too cute for the explosive heart of a city-killing weapon, don't worry. History has since given this 6.2-kilogram ball of plutonium a different name. This is the story of the Demon Core, a bomb that killed despite never being detonated. When Emperor Hirohito of Japan unfurled his white flag, this lump of plutonium was no longer required for its original deadly purpose. But that didn't make it useless, far from it. The process that gives nuclear weapons their destructive power, nuclear fission, had been discovered less than a decade before. That made the Demon Core a piece of cutting-edge technology. Gaining a more complete understanding of nuclear fission had profound implications for humankind. Not only was there a desire to build bigger and better bombs, but fission could also be put to less cataclysmic uses. Fission occurs when an atom's nucleus is split, a process that releases huge amounts of energy. Along with that energy, a split atom also fires out neutrons. Some of those, in turn, smash into other atoms, splitting them and releasing more energy and more neutrons. Under the right circumstances, a self-sustaining chain reaction can be triggered, unleashing staggering amounts of energy. And I really do mean staggering. The fission of a single kilogram of uranium produces roughly the same amount of energy as burning 4 billion kilograms of coal. To help scientists better harness this incredible power, the Demon Core became a subject of study at Los Alamos. A vital part of that research involved criticality experiments, designed to find the exact conditions a nuclear core will achieve critical mass, the point where a self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction takes place. It was important science. Understanding critical mass is key to ensuring your nuclear weapons explode and your power plants don't. But the experiments were also incredibly dangerous. Figuring out at which point the Demon Core would go supercritical could only be done by bringing it to the very edge of a devastating chain reaction. Accidentally triggering one wouldn't necessarily cause an explosion, but it would unleash a massive wave of lethal radiation. Legendary physicist Richard Feynman famously compared these experiments to tickling a dragon's tail. His point was clear: make a mistake, and you're going to get burnt. The scientists at Los Alamos knew the danger, but these were not cautious men. They'd spent years developing a weapon capable of ending the biggest war in history. Those kinds of stakes breed urgency, and urgency allows for corners to be cut on things like safety procedures. The end of the war should have taken that urgency away. But old habits die hard. If you picture scientists today handling highly radioactive materials, you'd probably imagine hazmat suits and heavy lead doorways. In the 1940s, things were a little different. To give you an idea, take a look at this picture. At first glance, you'd be forgiven for thinking these guys are loading a crate of beer into a truck. But no. In that box is the plutonium core that would become the heart of the gadget, the first atomic bomb ever detonated. That guy in the middle is Daghlian. I chose an image with him for a reason. You see, Exactly 64 days after this picture was taken, at just 24 years old, Harry Daghlian would be dead. Daghlian was one of the scientists tasked with criticality experiments at Los Alamos. His method was simple. He stacked neutron-reflecting tungsten carbide bricks in a ring around the core. This bounced escaping neutrons back toward the core, increasing the rate of fission. With every brick Harry stacked, his instruments showed fission was increasing. But just as the core was approaching criticality, Harry Daghlian made a mistake, and he woke the dragon. Judging that he'd added as many bricks as was safe, Harry reached out to start taking his wall apart. He missed by an inch. Instead of picking up the top brick, he knocked it forward, sending it tumbling directly onto the core, which went supercritical in an instant. Daghlian reacted immediately, grabbing the brick and tossing it away. He was fast, but not fast enough. A blast of ionizing radiation had already crashed into his body with such force, it had damaged his DNA. Acute radiation sickness doesn't kill you instantly. It starts with flu-like symptoms, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Oddly, sufferers usually rally at this point, and for a period, they present relatively few symptoms. But that's just the calm before the storm. What happens next depends on the radiation dose, but symptoms include confusion, seizures, blistered skin, hemorrhaging, and organ failure. Harry Daghlian experienced his own miserable cocktail of these symptoms over the next 25 days before finally slipping away. In doing so, he became the first person in history to die in a nuclear criticality accident. Fast forward 9 months. The Demon Core was now lined up for Operation Crossroads, the first post-war weapons tests at Bikini Atoll. Knowing the core would soon be gone, the scientists at Los Alamos were keen to extract as much data as possible. That meant more criticality experiments. You'd think that seeing a colleague die horribly would have catalyzed some robust safety reforms, but they didn't bother. Canadian physicist Louis Slotin was considered the world's leading expert on tickling the dragon's tail. A bit of a maverick who wore blue jeans and cowboy boots to work, he particularly enjoyed performing in front of an audience. 7 other scientists were present for the final experiment. Instead of bricks, Slotin encased the core inside 2 hemispheres of neutron-reflecting beryllium. In theory, the experiment was safe, as long as a gap was maintained between the hemispheres. But Slotin didn't use the standard spacers. He'd invented his own state-of-the-art alternative, a flathead screwdriver. As ridiculous as it sounds, all that stood between him and the core's radioactive breath was the tip of a screwdriver wedged between the beryllium reflectors. But on May 21, 1946, exactly 9 months to the day after Harry Daghlian woke the dragon, Slotin's screwdriver slipped. The beryllium hemispheres briefly met, fully enclosing the demon core and igniting a nuclear chain reaction. A burst of bright blue light was followed by a wave of heat as the core belched forth a colossal blast of radiation. Just as Daghlian had 9 months before, Slotin reacted fast, flipping the upper hemisphere free. But once again, it was much, much too late. It's terrifying to think what must have gone through Slotin's head. As a leading expert on plutonium, he knew exactly what he'd just done, and he knew exactly what was going to happen next. According to another scientist in the room, Slotin spoke exactly 4 words. Well, that does it. It's estimated he received a dose of radiation so high, it would have been fatal 4 times over. While Harry Daghlian had clung to life for nearly a month, Louis Slotin was dead within 9 days. I won't go into the details of his decline. It's harrowing stuff. Let's just say it wasn't a good way to go. As for the 7 other scientists in the room, each received a different dose of radiation. Radioactive emissions are governed by the inverse square law, meaning the intensity drops off rapidly the further you get from the source. Nobody aside from Slotin suffered from acute radiation sickness, though at least 2 of those present died years later from radiation-related causes. As a result of the accident, the demon core was too radioactive to be used in Operation Crossroads. In the end, it was melted down and reintegrated into the U.S. nuclear arsenal. which means it's very possible that elements of this killer core sit inside other nuclear weapons in the U.S. stockpile to this day. There's a tragic irony to this story. 3 bombs were assembled to be dropped on Japan. The first killed 140,000 people in Hiroshima. The second killed 80,000 in Nagasaki. The third, it killed 2 incautious scientists. And it's that one that earned the nickname, the Demon Core. Thanks for watching. Keep diving into the depths of mysterious events with ParaSide. What other cryptic topics should I investigate? Let me know in the comments.